So Hezbollah have fired a volley, a barrage of 100 rockets at the Israelis. Now, again, we talked about this the other day, that they fired them into the Syrian occupied Golan Heights, right? So the Syrian Golan Heights they're illegally occupied by the Israelis and have been occupied since 1967. So, you know, when we say Hezbollah are firing, I mean, geographically they're firing at Syria, but it's Israeli troops that are in that position, okay? Just so there's no confusion. But this is the largest barrage of rockets that they have fired up until now, since October 7th. I mean, just think of that, 100 rockets. And the reason for this is that the Israelis are changing the rules of engagement. In Lebanon, on the Lebanese front, remember, this front in Lebanon is just as much a front in the Gaza war as Gaza itself. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. The war in Gaza is not just in Gaza. So what the Israelis have been doing is they've been going in and bombing deeper and deeper and deeper inside of Lebanon. Okay? So yesterday, they bombed 100 kilometers inside the border. All right? I mean, just so you understand, this was the response from Hezbollah, right? 100 rockets. And the Israelis need to understand that this is, of course, a message. It's a very clear message. No one was killed or injured, but that's sometimes the point. That's sometimes the point. Now, you can argue about the efficiency of that, but I'll tell you this, because some people are wondering, well, you know, what's the point of firing a bunch of rockets into an empty field? I'll tell you what it is. It's called posturing, and the Americans love doing it, right? A show of force. But if you think Hezbollah are just firing rockets into an empty field, you're wrong. You're wrong. You do know that this is the first time in history that Israelis are getting a taste of their own medicine. Throughout their entire, since the beginning of their colony, what have the Israelis done? They have stolen land and kicked Palestinians out. So now, rather than Palestinians feeling that, and of course they are in Gaza, but rather than someone from Lebanon or Palestine getting a taste of this, it's the Israelis themselves. Because on the so-called border with the Israeli colony, you have, they just say 60,000. I think 60,000 is in recent weeks. If you look at the total number, it's 300,000. So you have 300,000 Israelis that have had to, they've had to leg it, get packed and move away from this area. And now they're being put up in hotels and complaining. And honestly, when I tell you what's happening in these hotels, I mean, Jesus Christ, I don't even want to get into it now. But this is putting an enormous burden on the Israeli economy. Can you imagine? You got 300,000 people. Every single one of them has to have their hotel bills paid indefinitely. You don't even know until, well, they're going to be there. The transport that it took to get them there. The bus drivers, the equipment. We talked about this last time. So don't think for a second that the Hezbollah are not achieving anything with this. And again, it's the equipment. If you look at the electronic warfare, the radio and surveillance towers destroyed. I mean, when we talk about being blind or going blind in a combat scenario, this is what Hezbollah have achieved. They have blinded the Israelis. And not only that, but if you recall, a few weeks ago, the Lebanese resistance, Hezbollah, they fired at an Israeli base in Meron. Okay, this one, see that? Now, this is one of they say it's one of the highest points in quote unquote Israel. It's not. Again, this is Syria. But it is one of the most important Israeli bases because of its altitude. And it also coordinates all the drone activity in the north sector, the airstrikes, surveillance. So they launched about 60 rockets at that thing. And now, I mean, already then people are going, wow, what the hell, 60? And at that thing, you're telling me Hezbollah can reach all the way over there. 40 of the 60 hit. Well, this is even more than that. This is 100. And let me just show you the reaction from the Israelis.
responding twice in Baalbek, and also targeting things that are not spoken by the IDF. There is no explanation what was targeted as a reaction for what happened. But we have to go earlier. If you, just to make, we are in a short memory, what happened is that 2 UAVs attacking the Golan Heights, and the entries of UAVs that are coming from the Baqa of Lebanon, mostly this is most of the places they are centralized, they I mean Hezbollah, it has become the main threat to Israel. I call it like tunnels from the air. The use of UAV. There is a lot of experience now in Ukraine on the war between.
Did you hear what he said? He said this is the main threat to the Israelis. I mean, again, a threat is a funny word. You come to Palestine. No one forced you to come there. If you steal people's land, yeah, they get mad. You're the threat. But anyway, think about how significant it is, because once again, this is why I'm telling you that the Lebanese front cannot be, considered apart. I'll let him continue.
Of experience now in Ukraine on the war between Russia to Ukraine, because the knowledge what is done and produced is coming from Iran. So the response of IDF 100 kilometers, I can estimate that it was towards the UAV, and I think that the targets were connected to the UAV, or storages, or industrial, and other kind of things that connected. It has become the main threat. The reaction of Hezbollah of launching 100 rockets into more or less into events, I think it's a message. But till now, even I will claim that there is no crossing the depth and intensive activities. I mean, the escalation is still under control, but you climb up and you climb up, you don't know what will bring you the fire at the end that will take us to a main escalation. Till now, both sides are looking to keep the escalation in this kind of level. And I think that, first of all, look, they are launching rockets towards the Golan Heights. Towards most of the rockets are going outside of civil area and are going outside of the area, open area they are targeting. So it means there is a message by the number, there is a message from where it has been launched. But when you are looking, there is also lines that Hezbollah are not crossing.
Again, very important points that I'm inclined to agree with. Well, I mean, I mentioned them to you already before. And do you see how he, by his own admission, he says Hezbollah are not targeting civilians? Again, you heard him say it himself. And I mean, I've told you this before, but this, you can hear it from an Israeli, on an Israeli channel. And we know this. The reason, in case this wasn't clear, the reason so many Israelis have evacuated the border, from the border area with Lebanon, is not because Hezbollah have actually killed any of them or threatened any of them. They're just scared shitless. They're scared shitless. So as a precaution, the Israeli army have set up a buffer. The Israeli occupation have set up a buffer zone of about 10 kilometers. And that's what's funny, is that first it was 10 kilometers. And then you had the front in a radius of roughly 30 kilometers. You know, the Israelis will fire 30 kilometers into Lebanon. Then the Hezbollah will fire 30 kilometers into Israel, and so on. And now he's saying, well, you know, when it comes to escalation, you never know what you know, what's going to be the tipping point. That's what he means. He's trying to say that you don't know what is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Well, is it you? You know, when you go from 30 kilometers to 100 kilometers, how is that not an escalation? Again, let me just remind you, it's the Israelis who launched an airstrike 100 kilometers deep. Okay? So, you know, all of this is kind of funny in a way, because they're firing at each other. It is a war, but there's an understanding, right? They're still the enemy, but you respect the enemy, not in the sense that you actually, you know, respect them or admire them, but that you're able to gauge, you're able to estimate and understand, what you're able to do against such an adversary, right? What the limits are, what the parameters are of this engagement. And so you respect that at the very least, right? And Hezbollah are not the ones who are escalating. It's the Israelis. And they're going all the way to Baalbek and killing 4 people. Right, I'll remind you. I mean, come on. Of course, it's a message when they're firing 100 rockets back. And you notice what he said also was very interesting, is that this is that Hezbollah have gained advanced knowledge in drone usage. When he said UAV, I should have explained this to you. A UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle. It just means drone, okay? You also have the underwater equivalent, like they used, or might have used in Ukraine in any case, which has existed for a long time. So underwater unmanned vehicle. In any case, he's saying that Hezbollah are using drones a lot, and he called them tunnels from the air. I saw you guys laughing in the comments. Honestly, that was kind of funny.
To Israel, I call it like tunnels from the air.
Man, Israelis, they have they have an obsession with tunnels. They go to bed dreaming about tunnels. I call them tunnels from the air. Tunnels everywhere. Hamas tunnels and terrorists. You gotta be easy on me. I'm still working on the Israeli accent.
Israel, I call it like tunnels from the air.
So in any case, who is this? Who's to thank for this? Iran, of course. Iran, and I love this because they used to laugh. You remember how they were laughing at Iran to say, "Oh, look at Russia. Russia can't manufacture drones anymore. They have to resort to getting drones from Iran." Wow. Oh yeah. Well, look at that. I guess those drones win you wars, don't they? They're not laughing now. And when they said, "Oh, look, Putin has to resort to getting shells from North Korea," even more important. Oh, I guess shells win you wars. And I swear to God, I just saw some woman on CNN talking about how the Ukrainians are outgunned. They don't have enough artillery shells. Yes, I know. Thank you. I've been saying this 6 months ago. They love being arrogant and like, oh, the Western way is the best way. Oh yeah, no. We know what's best with technology. No, actually, this is a joke. It's a scam by the weapons manufacturers. I'll come back to that in a bit when we talk about Yemen. But you can see how the front now in this war is shifting from Gaza to Lebanon. And again, if we want to talk about what this area is, I mean, this is one country. These borders that you see on this map are imaginary. I mean, I don't just mean like, oh, borders are imaginary. No, like these specific ones were drawn by the UK and France. Like they just, this was all of this was Syria, so Syria's border was literally Gaza. That's the border between Syria and Egypt. Okay. This is barely 100 years ago. There was no Jordan. There was no, Israel or Palestine or Lebanon. This was all of it was Syria and even Iraq, although again, Iraq is still separate, right? But they took chunks of Syria like Mosul and they stuck it in Iraq and they took chunks of Syria and stuck it in Turkey because you remember it's the end of World War I. And anyway, I've talked about Sykes-Picot enough, but it's obvious that this is all one war because of the groups that we're talking about and the proximity. And I know they'll go and say like, oh yeah, it's because they're Shia this and Shia that. Please go away. Enough with this. There's literally nothing to do with that. Literally nothing to do with that. Hamas are Sunni, Iran are Shia, Syria is secular. The common denominator is fuck Israel. Get off our land. Do you understand? That is the common denominator. It's not the religion, you backwards caveman. God, this is the Western way of thinking, which created these borders in the fucking first place, right? It's like, oh, let's have a country called Lebanon where it's just Christian, and let's have. It's so pathetic listening to these, so-called professors who don't know their ass from their elbow. It's really pathetic. Anyway, so what happened afterwards is that So again, to recap, the Israelis go into Lebanon 100 kilometers deep. They change the rules of engagement. They bomb 4 people. They kill them, and then Hezbollah fire 100 rockets at the Golan Heights, which are Syrian but occupied by Israel. And then after that, the Israelis, quote unquote, respond. Again, I mean, you can't respond when you're the one who started the aggression, but okay. And then they released this footage of how they targeted the two cars, 2 moving cars. Right, so they're assassinations. They're assassinations. And, you know, I mean, it's, this is how the Israelis play, right? The Israelis are not equipped or fit to you know, work on a battlefield against an opposing military force. So what they'll do is they'll do these like sneaky assassinations and a drone strike there, and you know, we'll bomb a hospital there. But on a battlefield, they can't do shit. And the proof is that it's 2006, and the proof of that is Gaza right now. I mean, 2006 was already like, whoa. But this now in Gaza, I mean, Hamas are wiping the floor with them. You know, you have to remember, just because Israel are able to massacre civilians, that doesn't mean anything in military terms. It just makes them assholes. Okay? What I'm looking for is apples to apples, right? A military force against a military force. Are civilians a military force? No, because they're civilians. So I don't compare that because I'm not an idiot. I look at Hamas, the Qassam brigades versus the Israelis. Who is winning? It's the Qassam brigades because they are wiping the floor with them. Look at the footage that's being released almost every day, and I'll show you some right now. And I also have some footage from Hezbollah. So when they were firing this is in Mount Adir, and I want you to you heard the Israeli analyst how tunnels from the air. There's another thing that the Israelis are afraid of, which is the ATGM. And ATGM is an anti-tank guided missile. You know, you put it's like on a tripod. You fire it, and then you make it hit armored vehicles. But that's the thing with Hezbollah, is that they have, you know, this is a very, very heavy ordnance. So you would only use it normally on tanks. Hezbollah are like, no, you know what? We're just going to use it on everything. And the Israelis are not used to this. No one is used to this because you just don't do that. But Hezbollah have enough of these things that they're just firing them at whatever moves. So I showed you one where they were doing it against a Jeep. I think this is also against infantry. They're using it against infantry. Yeah, you can see it's doing the there you go. There's no protection from ATGMs. There's no Iron Dome. There are no countermeasures that exist today against anti-tank guided missiles. You're screwed. You're just screwed. So you know, they're not ready for that. In any case, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on, you know, regarding Lebanon, because it is a very important front. It's actually the front, if we you know, all things taken into consideration. And here you can see the photos of the assassination, the Israeli assassination in Lebanon after the strikes that came in. So this is in Tyre, right, in the south of Lebanon. Remember, the south of Lebanon is basically Hezbollah's turf. It's not you know, essentially and only or exclusively Hezbollah's turf, but in general terms, you can think of it that way. It's again, don't think of it, you know, as purely that, because you hear that stuff usually, for example, from the Israeli or the U.S. media, where they say like, oh well, South Lebanon, or if it's in Beirut, they say like Al-Dahia is you know, Hezbollah territory, and that's basically their way of saying, well, it's okay if we massacre everyone, right? or stronghold is the word they'll use, right? A Hezbollah stronghold. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. But I wanted to show this to you because it's really important. Now look at the Israelis. If you look at a poll, the Israelis, 71% of them, according to this poll, support an invasion of Lebanon. This is a Mariv newspaper that conducted this poll. I mean, how stupid can you be? Like, I thought they got spanked, thoroughly spanked in 2006. There was such a spanking that I remember it. I mean, how old was I? I don't know, 14, 13. So, how do they not remember it? Keep in mind, so forget October 7th until now. Between 2006 and October 6th, the Israelis never, ever bombed Lebanon again. I could be wrong. I think there was one instance, but generally speaking, they never fucked with Lebanon again after that. Think of that. Now, of course, it's a different scenario. So, all bets are off now. But just to give you an idea, like they definitely did not forget that spanking. Apparently, the Israelis did. So, and I needn't remind you that of course you have many people that have been martyred now on this front, from Hezbollah's side and also from Israelis who have been killed. So it's not like again, rockets being fired into an empty ditch where cows go to pasture or something. No, this is a serious front. Make no mistake. There's no joke about it. We're not seeing the same amount of casualties like in Gaza. Of course, it's not comparable. But from a military standpoint, the Israelis, again, they're so scared of Hezbollah, they evacuated hundreds of thousands of Israelis, and they're not happy about it. They're really not happy about it. I saw a video of them of one family in a hotel complaining, and I was thinking to myself, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't like that either. But have you seen what Palestinians are going through? I mean, gee, how dare you complain? How dare you complain? When Palestinians get kicked out of their homes, they're in the fucking street, or they go to a refugee camp and then it's bombed by the Israelis, and you're in a hotel and you're complaining. Then don't come to Palestine and go back to your damn country. There would be no war in that case. This would fix the whole problem. Anyway, you guys get the idea. This is the update on Lebanon. Let's go to Yemen now.